The topics and opinions expressed in the following show are solely those of the host and their guests and not those of W4CY Radio, its employees, or affiliates. We make no recommendations or endorsements for radio show programs, services, or products mentioned on air or on our web. No liability, explicit or implied, shall be extended to W4CY Radio or its employees or affiliates. Any questions or comments should be directed to those show hosts. Thank you for choosing W4CY Radio.
Are you a songwriter? Are you looking to turn your songwriting passion into a full-time gig? Whether you are just at the start of your songwriting journey or a seasoned industry professional, this show is made for you. Welcome to the Songwriter Show, bringing together songwriting news, interviews, and community. Now, welcome your host, Sarantos.
Hello, everyone. I hope you're having a wonderful Tuesday, and welcome back to the Songwriter Show. Thank you so much for tuning in. I'm your host, Sarantos, a solo music artist who's been writing lyrics for as long as I can remember. Words are so important to me, and that's why I'm thrilled to host this show. I strongly believe that every single song is a unique story. The Songwriter Show is broadcast live on number one ranked W4CY Radio and has listeners in all 206 countries in the world and every state in the U.S. The station is licensed with ASCAP, BMI, CSAC, and Sound Exchange, and has partnerships throughout the music industry, including iHeartRadio and exposure to over 300 million listeners. Tonight's first guest is Nick Fowler. Nick is an American writer and musician who began life as a musician while studying at Cornell University. In 1989, he moved to New York City and teamed up with Greg Wattenberg, Michael Haar, and Greg Smith to form Tanto Tanto. He's had many successful years, and I welcomed him to the show. How are you doing tonight, Nick?
Hey, how you doing, Sam?
I'm doing great. So you have a very interesting story, I have to say.
Oh, thank you.
So what got you started down this road?
The musical road?
Yeah.
So, since...
Hello? Nick, you there? I believe we lost Nick. We apologize about that. Hopefully we'll get him back on the show here. In the meantime, I do want to thank W4CY Radio for helping sponsor and host the Songwriter Show. It's very humbling to have them pick us up and to transmit this show to all 206 countries in the world. Our producer's working to try to get Nick back on the show.
Sorry, I lost you. I'm back.
Okay, no problem, Nick.
Sorry about that.
So we only heard the first few words. If you can let us know a little bit about what got you started on this musical journey.
Yeah, so I was saying, I saw Michael Jackson actually with the Jackson 5 on, I think it was Dick Clark. I was 3 years old. And it was like supernatural to me. It was really moved me, and I decided then that I wanted to be a singer and performer.
Wow. Well, that's I could definitely understand. Michael Jackson inspired me too.
Oh yeah. What era of Michael Jackson did you like?
80s. Yeah, Billie Jean, Thriller. I mean,
right.
Obviously that album is a classic. What about you?
I love that album, but it was it was the Jackson 5 songs. It was ABC and I Want You Back. All those songs got me hooked, Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So tell us a little bit about anyone in your family musical?
No, actually, I'm the only one. Nobody had any musical talent. But again, I don't really believe that there's a thing as called talent. I think it's focused focused incentive and focused intent. I think if somebody really wants to do something, that they can do it. I don't really believe in talent.
Yeah.
So.
I do tend to, I come from a family that wasn't really musical per se either, other than listening to a lot of music. And I think if you just have this passion inside of you, you can teach yourself almost anything.
Yeah, I agree. I think anybody can sing and all of that. Yeah, it's all will and belief as far as I can tell.
Yeah. Did you ever have any musical teachers or anyone who propelled you further in the field?
I had a guitar teacher when I was, I think, 9, named Jerry Thigpen. I don't even know if he's alive. He was in Tallahassee, where I grew up, and he was very inspirational to me. And he played in this band, and my parents would take me to see them late at night at these clubs in Tallahassee. I thought that was the most romantic, glamorous thing, to go into these clubs, and these people were drinking and smoking and playing rock and roll, and the whole. I fell in love with the whole thing. Yeah.
If you could be in a room with any musician, dead or alive, who would it be? Would it be Michael or someone else?
I think it would be Freddie Mercury. I guess a lot of people probably say that. I'd probably be. He's the one that speaks to me most. My soul goes out to Freddie for some reason. But again, many people. That's wonderful that the movie came out and brought Queen to this new generation. Is awesome. So yeah. What about you? What would you have?
You know what? Yeah, you've. That's a great choice. I mean, so far, Michael Jackson, Freddie Mercury. I think you're hitting it on. I also love anything 80s, but Def Leppard, Survivor. Oh, wow. I mean, I kind of a mixture of all that stuff. But yeah.
I love Def Leppard. Even before Hysteria, that first record that broke them. What was that record that broke them?
Oh, with Photograph and stuff?
No, the one before that was... Yeah. I mean, the Photograph record was that was what broke them huge, but Rock Brigade, that was the song that I really loved.
Yeah, I remember that song too, yeah.
So you're more of like the hard rock... Well, how old are you?
I'm actually in my 40s, and I love rock and roll, but I kind of veer a little bit towards doing some pop stuff or even folk stuff too. But rock is my core. That's really where I feel comfortable.
When you say pop and folk, do you like Jeff Buckley? Do you know him at all?
No, I don't know who that is. What does he do?
So he's great. So his father was this guy, Tim Buckley, who was a folk artist in the 60s and 70s, and he died, I think, of an overdose. Jeff Buckley was his son. He had this record called Grace that came out, I think, in like 97. Awesome record. Okay. He did his second record, and all the pressure from having to do another record, he drowned himself in the Memphis River. But if you get a chance to hear that record, if you like Zeppelin, and if you like that kind of ethereal, I mean, he's very original. Please just, if you can get a chance, check out Jeff Buckley, Grace. And it'll take you a while it's not the kind of thing that's going to hit you right off. It's, I find that with the best music, it usually takes 6 or 7 listens to a record to absorb. What do you think? You do?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Tell us a little bit for the listeners. How do your songwriting? Are you into lyrics, melodies, music? How do you typically start?
Yeah, melodies, I think, is how I usually start. I'll hear a melody that I like, and then I'll try to conform the chords and the lyrics to the melody. But yeah, I think I'm a melody guy first and foremost. Are you the same or?
Yeah, you know what? I vary. I used to be strictly just lyrics first, and then I found myself in my older work basically cramming lyrics into spacing that probably didn't sound very good. So now, having learned about scansion, and when you start with a melody and you kind of fit the lyrics to that, it definitely is a lot more musical. So I've kind of started going that way.
You mean, when you said scansion, you mean that like the way the line scans syllabically?
Yeah, just so it fits. Another mistake I used to make a ton was, when you look at natural conversation where you accent words, I was accenting like the and things that like, even if it was a word, it wasn't where it's normally accented.
Right.
And I've since learned that that's not good, and people get distracted when they're listening to music and they don't quite connect with it. And it makes total sense, but I didn't know that 6 years ago when I started.
Right. Yeah. You mean like not emphasizing like words like and there's just sort of like passing notes that you can. Those are implicit kind of in the stanza.
Yeah. And also like, if you have a word like honeymoon, right? The accent's on honeymoon. It's not honeymoon.
Right.
Whereas when I was first singing, I had no idea. I was just winging it. And sometimes I would accent things that shouldn't have been accented. And again, songwriting, I've been taking songwriter lessons for 3 years, and it's one of the many, many things I've learned. So,
yeah. And where do you take lessons?
I actually take lessons with Jai Josephs, who's I met him at a Taxi Music Conference, and I do it via Skype. And I've been doing it for a couple of years now, and he's taught me so many things. And I highly recommend it for anyone out there who's serious about songwriting.
And how did you find him?
Through the Taxi Conference. I went to a couple of Taxi Music Conferences, and he's had many hits. He's been in the industry many, many years. At this point of his career, he just teaches songwriting. He doesn't write, anymore. But he's definitely very, very influential for me. So let's talk a little bit about your writing. So, I get your music thing. What got you going in the direction of writing? If you could tell our audience a little bit about that.
You mean fiction writing?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I always wanted the music and the writing were always equal, and they were inextricably linked to me. I was writing poems when I was 3, and I was loving music, and then everything came together. So I was writing poems, and then I started writing short stories. And then when I was in high school, I started writing a novel, and I felt like I wanted to write novels. So in college, I wrote a first novel that was pretty crappy, was not published. But that was part of my journey. I always wanted to be a musician, and I always wanted to be a fiction writer. So they kind of went hand in hand. I loved books when I was little. I loved like Where the Wild Things Are and Charlotte's Web and Stuart Little. I liked books that had that irony about them.
Yeah. So we have a few questions here. I'm going to ask you one of the questions one of the fans asked. Were you a special gifted kid?
Again, I don't think there is such a thing. I was able to access that frequency or the universal consciousness of music. I was able to access because I really wanted it. I made myself available, but I don't really think that I'm any more gifted than anybody else. Again, it's a matter of like focused intent and manifesting the reality you want. I've been into quantum physics lately, so I've been really studying about how the world is the projection of our belief system. And it makes sense to me because the long-winded answer is no, I don't think that I was particularly gifted. Okay.
You're a very humble guy because I think you are gifted at this point, but let's get to a couple more questions from them. Okay. First is they want to know where were you born?
I was born in Bavaria, Munich, Germany. Bavaria is the province of Nuremberg. And then we moved to Fürth, Germany. My parents were military people.
Okay. What was that like? Did you travel a lot when you were a kid?
Yes. Constant. Yeah. I always wondered if my father might have been a spy or something because we were always, I never knew why we were moving. We were in Yugoslavia, Poland, Florence, Rome, all over Europe we were traveling. And I remember one of my first memories is in Yugoslavia looking down through clouds. We were so high, we were looking down through clouds, and there was like an eagle. And I just remember that these tiny little roads in Yugoslavia, dangerous roads without railing. And I remember looking over and seeing that. So I think that's probably my first memory.
Yeah. You say that, and I think back to when I was a kid and we'd go to Greece a lot. And same thing, you look at the side of the road and there's nothing preventing you. In Greece, especially, there's like these little crosses along the road. And I was asking my mom, like, what are those? She goes, oh, that's where someone died. And you see them everywhere. You see them everywhere. So I was like a little kid. I was like, oh, my God, But so that was interesting.
You traveled a lot as a child, too. What did your parents do?
So my dad, I'm Greek. So, of course, my dad owned a restaurant. And my mom was a great mom, did anything we needed. And she had a brother in Greece. So we would always, I think, maybe 5-6 times when I was in grammar school, like up to 8th grade, we went to Greece for a couple months. Mm-hmm. And I always felt bad leaving my dad behind, but it was like, as a kid, I complained. I was like, I want to hang out with my friends. I don't want to go to Greece. now in retrospect, I was like, I wish I could do that every year.
Oh, I know. Yeah. So you were like more of a homebody, you wanted to be with your buddies as a kid?
I don't know about a homebody, but my mom was pretty strict when I was growing up. When it was winter, I had to be home before it was dark. And in Chicago, it got dark at like 4 or 5. So I didn't, I rebelled a little bit. And eventually she, was a little more lenient. But
right.
No, I prefer going out all the time. I don't like sitting at home, even though, like you said, with the hard work of writing and music and all that, you are probably at home working on your craft a lot more than most people, I guess.
Yeah, it's very insular. It can be very isolating.
Yeah,
definitely.
So we have like 10 questions from listeners. Let me get to a few of them here.
Awesome. Thanks.
I think they like your story. Let's see. Do you feel like you had a good childhood? So I think you talked about that a little bit. If you can expand.
Yeah, I don't want to be a victim. I'm not a victim. Again, I think that everything that we do is probably been written before we were born. I'm very spiritual. So I did not really have technically a good childhood. It was full of a lot of abuse. But I think that happened to me because I came to this planet to, learn some lesson. I didn't have like my parents divorced, and there were a lot of infidelity and a lot of physical and emotional abuse. But it made me who I am, and it was part of my journey. And I can't. It's inevitable, and it sort of had to happen this way. And some part of me drew that. It was part of my story. So again, I'm kind of babbling. I guess no would be the answer.
Yeah, but you know what? Like you said, it's part of your journey. It's part of your story. And, we each have, no one has a perfect life. I think when you're a kid, at one point, you fantasize that you want this perfect life, but it's not. And that's part of the journey.
Yeah, there's lessons there. And if we realize that we're master of our own reality, like I noticed that the more I think positively, the more I manifest what I want. There's been times in my life when I really believed that I would do well, and I did. And there's been times in my life when I had no self-esteem and did not believe that I would do well. And in the way that you hold an object up to a mirror, same with your thoughts. If you if you do not believe you will do well, the world, your subconscious will listen to that, and it's neutral, it's impersonal. It will do what you tell it. So, yeah. I think that's sure. The way I've been thinking lately. Yeah. I'm sorry. Let's keep going with the questions.
No problem. So let's see a couple more here. Do you write about these types of things from your childhood?
Yes, I've written about them a lot, and it's helped me. I love writing because it frames things, and the act of writing lets me know. I don't know how I feel about something often. And when I start writing about it, I say, oh, this is how I felt. This is why I did that. So it's instructive to me,
Yeah. What about your one of the things they want to know is where are you located now?
I'm living in Queens, Jackson Heights, New York. But my wife and I also have a place in Florida and a place in Long Island that we're buying now. So mainly New York City, but I'm living in several places now. Okay.
Let's talk a little bit about your journal writing, your book writing. You mentioned novels. Tell us a little bit about what's your thing? What do you like to write the most?
So my first novel was this kind of tragicomic rock and roll love story called A Thing or Two About Curtis and Camilla. It was very ironic and self-effacing, and I try to be very funny. I think humor is the way to empathy. So I like to write funny, irreverent, dirty. My humor is pretty scatological. So silliness, but again, there's a serious side. So tragicomic, but I try to make everything I write funny. I try to have a skeptical distance. I don't want to, I try to avoid sentimentality.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay. You know what, Nick?
But I like to write about sex, drugs, and rock and roll, basically. My books are about that.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about your website. Where can people buy your music, your books? Where can they find out more information about you?
Yeah, so nickfowler.com. Everything's on there. I have 3 different sites that are on that. So nickfowler.com then there's Nick Fowler Music, Nick Fowler Author, and then Nick Fowler Writing Services. I've started my own company to help other writers. So if you go to nickfowler.com, you'll be able to see everything, and you can buy my books. Through the new book you can buy is called My Virtuous Sister. You can buy that through the press, upperhandpress.com. And then my other book is on Amazon. And yeah, so if you go to my site, everything's pretty much there, nickfowler.com. Yeah.
Okay. All right, Nick, we're going to take a listen to your song now. So
awesome. Thank you.
Yeah. All right. So here we go.
And now, welcome this week's special guest.
So we're going to keep talking to Nick. Our second guest didn't call in. So actually, okay. It's a pleasure to have you on some more because I had a million more questions for you. But,
awesome. That song is about a girl that is famous now that I'm not going to say, but it was inspired by the band that I was in for that song was called Maximilian is King. And the mastermind behind that band was my dear friend Arthur Lynn. And we were both dating this girl who's now a superstar. And that song is about her.
Okay.
I just wanted to say that.
Yeah, you don't have to tell us her name, but tell us a little bit about what got you writing that song, what got you releasing that song. Yeah, so my buddy, I dated this girl, and I was like, she was very ambitious. She wanted to be a star. And then he dated her. I was like, he liked her, and he really fell for her. And she broke him, So he basically, the song is about that. It says, my friend, he told me all about her. She plays guitar. She plays me too. That's the lyric. She moved to New York like they do. I never wanted to be so in love. So it's a song about you're in too far. You've fallen in love with this person who you know is not for you. It's not probably love. It's lust or obsession or something. But it's about that feeling of you're screwed. You're like, oh no, how did I let myself fall for this person? But again, we fall for the people that we're going through a time in our lives, and something in us needs that. So yeah. That's.
Do you write songs about love and girls and stuff?
Yeah, that's that sounds like a classic rock song.
Yeah, total classic rock.
Yeah.
And Steve Thompson produced it, and Steve Thompson produced. He mixed it, and Steve Thompson mixed "Appetite for Destruction." So we were so psyched to do that record with Steve Thompson because "Appetite for Destruction." So
yeah. What instruments are on that song?
So that is guitar, and that's Arthur Lynn, and then bass. I think Arthur played bass on that also, and then drums was this guy Van Romain, superstar drummer, famous big drummer, and then keyboards was Rob Flores, fantastic keyboardist. So yeah, I think it was basically 5 pieces.
Okay. What do you typically write about your life experiences?
Yes, I'm never able to really write these imaginary songs. I wrote one song like that, but yeah, I think pretty much 99%. What about you? Are you the same or?
You know what? I write about all sorts of stuff. I would probably say half of it is about me and half isn't. But right. I write so many songs.
How many songs have you written?
Oh, easily over 3,000. I mean, I've been writing since I was a little kid. And my biggest dilemma is, you keep learning. So, of course, if I write something, tomorrow, I'm like, oh, this is so much better. But right. I've kind of gotten to the point now where sometimes you're really inspired and you're like, oh, this song just kicks ass. I got to definitely get this on, this CD or next CD. And then other times you're kind of like, it's a great idea, but it's not a great song. And you put it in your, you have a bin of things that are okay, things that are awesome. And then I don't know about you, but I go back and look at stuff when I'm kind of in the mood to create something. And I look at something I labeled awesome and I'm like, what was I thinking? This isn't awesome. This is dumb.
Yeah. So, and if something doesn't move me emotionally, then I discard it. If it doesn't give me goosebumps, or, then it's like, that's kind of the barometer for me. But yeah, I would say in any art or writing fiction or music, I would say 85% of what I create is garbage, and I end up discarding. Yeah.
Well, I used to, in part of my journey too, I used to think, hey, I'm inspired. I wrote this. I'm not editing it. And part of my process, I've realized that there's the muse where you just throw ideas down. And then there's a big component that I never used to do that I do the last 2 years, which is editing. And that is so huge for realizing that, hey, that doesn't make sense, or that's the wrong verb, or that's the past tense. And I talk to people, and it's amazing to me how many people are just like, no, I'm not going to edit it. This
when you
is
say edit it, you mean after post recording, or you mean before recording?
before recording, after the first write.
Right.
I used to be exactly like some of these people I talk to that they're like, I wrote this once and that's it. Like it's ready. And I'm like, I think that's a myth. I think you have to look at it. You have to look at the rhythm. You have to look at the melody. You have to, and for me, that's been very eye-opening because I never used to know that.
It's all revision. And once you know that, you feel a lot better about yourself because, you think, oh, Queen and Michael Jackson, they just wrote these songs and they were there. But even that, Bruno Mars, that song Uptown Funk, I think he was working on that for 5 years and it never gelled.
Yeah.
But he had that spark of inspiration. He knew there was something there. So I think if you have that core belief, there's something emotional at the core, then yes, then it's editable.
Yeah, absolutely. Tell us a little bit. Let's get back to your book. So it's interesting because I don't typically meet songwriters that also write books, and I do the same thing. And people always think that I'm weird, and they're like, "Why are you writing fiction, fantasy?" And each month I release a book chapter, and it parallels a song. So they kind of look at me like where in the hell did I get this idea? But I want to talk to you a little bit about your fiction fantasy. How did you go off on that path specifically, and what makes you want to keep doing it?
But yeah, I'm like you. I'll write about a character, like in this novel that's coming out, My Virtual Sister. The protagonist is named Petty Smout, and she's a rock star, and she's a singer. And I wrote the song Heroin Girl. I wrote this song, and that's about her. So I think I'm like you. If I'm writing about characters, they become real, and I want them to inhabit all genres. For my first book, I drew photos too, and I drew drawings. So you can't really limit it. If something inspires you, then you want to write about it, you want to sing about it, you want to play about it, you want to draw it, you want to feel it, you want to smell it. So I think to limit yourself with genre is why bother? Why limit yourself? So I think I'm like you, that everything, all these art forms they go hand in hand for me. They're elastic. Yeah. So. Yeah, and I think they're plastic. Sorry.
Yeah, that's okay. I agree with you, and I can tell you one of the advantages to writing a book is when you're trying to write a song, you have to fit within a melody, and you have like 4 words or 2 lines to get a point across. When you're writing a book, you can really expand and use metaphors that are, imagery, similes, all these things, and you have so much more. Your canvas is so much bigger, and I love songwriting. That's my first passion. But as the years go by, I love writing books too, because you get so much more opportunity to really hook the reader.
Yeah, you're right. That it's more restrictive. Songwriting is more, especially pop songwriting. You have to sort of follow the universal laws that have been set down. But yeah, the older I get, I guess I'm veering more towards books. And one can be musical in books because I try to make my sentences, all of them, sing. The music doesn't stop with the music per se. Like, if you're anything like me, there's music in prose. Do you know what I'm? Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So Nick, we got a few more minutes here. I want to ask you a question I ask everybody. I always feel like this show is not just about songwriters, but about fans, and we got to protect each other. So I ask everybody about scams. Tell us about a scam you want to warn us about, or one that you fell for, so we can all protect each other.
Here's a scam. So I signed this draconian agreement with this music attorney publisher about 10 years ago. And several people told me, don't do it. But as a musician, as you know, when there's money or any kind of interest, we think, oh my God, we've got to jump on this because there may not be another opportunity. And we're thinking out of a mindset of limitation and lack. And I've learned that as musicians, we have this sacred obligation to ourselves and to the world to shepherd our creations the best we can. So my advice is, do not get involved with any scumbag music publishers that are going to exploit you, because there's a better road out there, and it's worth the patience to get your music exactly how you want it. Don't sign any draconian, horrible deal that's going to, sign your life over, which I've stupidly done several times out of desperation. That mindset is not a mindset that serves artists like us. So have confidence and know that, don't sell yourself short, metaphorically and literally, I think.
Yeah, I think we all fall for that because we, desperation's a little bit of it, but also you just believe. You believe that people want, they have your best interest at heart. When a manager or licensor says they're going to get your, I've done the same thing. I've signed with a few licensors, they're like, hey, I love this song, I'm going to get it. And then literally, and I don't even push people, I'm like, all right, I understand how the business works. After 2 years, their contract runs out and you're like, hey, did you get anything? And they're like, no. It's just like they just have, a lot of times they don't even respond to you.
I know, it's brutal.
It's crazy.
It's so brutal. Everything they say about the music business is pretty much true, but I think it's great now because there seems like there's so many more ways. I did this thing, I don't know if you know about it, it's called, it's a distributor. All my songs are distributed for this one thing. It's not CD Baby. It's I have to think of it. TuneCore
is the other one.
No, it's not. It's a new, relatively new one, and it's far more fair. I'll think of it and I'll send you this because I'm stupid. I can't think of it. Yeah, all my songs are now on there, and it's superior to TuneCore and CD Baby. I looked at them all, and it's a lot less expensive.
Yeah,
I'll think of it. I'll send it to you.
I know there's like 3 or 4 that I keep hearing about, but that's a whole other topic of discussion. So you're currently in New York, correct?
Yes, right now I'm in Jackson Heights talking to you.
Okay.
That's a part of Queens.
Yeah.
And where are you? You're in LA?
I'm in Chicago. Chicago. Right. I'm a Midwestern kind of guy.
And you grew up there, right?
Yeah, born and raised. So I'm one of the few people that love Chicago, wants to stay here my whole life.
You really? I love Chicago.
I do. Yeah, I love the weather. People complain about it, but yeah, I routinely run into people and all they do is they're like, oh, I'm here for a couple of years for school or for something. I can't wait to get the heck out of here. And I'm like, city's clean. There's like literally anything you can imagine here. So.
Did you read that book, The Devil in the White City?
No. Is that about Chicago?
Yes, it's about Chicago.
Oh, really?
Book. It's about the World's Fair in Chicago. You should read that. It's by this guy Larson. It's very cool.
Okay. Yeah, no, I haven't read it. Tell us about your personality. Are you a hunter? Are you a gatherer? How would you describe yourself?
Interesting. I'm very aggressive. I think so. Tell me what you mean by that, hunter-gatherer. That's interesting. So
hunter, I kind of think of someone who's out hunting. He knows what he wants. He'll get it no matter what. Gatherer is someone who's a little more, has flocked together people, coach them through, try to inspire them.
Well, I think I used to be more of a hunter, and now I think the gatherer part is coming out of me because as I said, this website, I'm starting to help other writers. So I'm trying to be, I think, more empathetic and more of a gatherer as I grow.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm 52. Yeah. You're 40, what? You're 40?
Yeah.
Okay,
and I think we get less aggressive as we get older anyways. That's probably part of it.
I'm definitely more feminine than I was 10 years ago, which is a good thing.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
What? Tell us a little bit about when you were in high school. What were you like?
I was, I came to this very preppy, deep Southern school in Tallahassee, a prep school. I've been waiting to get in this. And then in 8th grade, I got in, and I was a musician, hippie, pot-smoking 12-year-old wild guy. And so I was suddenly thrown into this prep school, deep Southern, all these blue-blooded, very nice people. And I was just very hard to adapt. But I fell in love with a girl in 8th grade and spent the rest of my time in high school trying to get her to fall in love with me back. Finally, senior year, she somewhat reciprocated. But I was very much like the guy that didn't belong. My mom was Jewish. And I didn't in the South, that was, people were like, goddamn Jews. They were very anti-Semitic. So I concealed that throughout high school. So I was not really flourishing, I guess. But I was on the brain brawl team. I was champion of this academic stuff. So I think I thrived academically, but not really socially.
Yeah. Well, and high school's a tough time. I think a lot of us, either you're the popular kid or you're not. And I was a nerd. I was not popular. And
same.
But you know what? It gives you thick skin, and I think teaches you about failure, which I see some of these popular kids that aren't doing so good now. So
no, it's very true. And did you have that feeling of, I remember there was no cafeteria where I went to school at first, but all the popular kids would be on this lawn sitting with their beautiful preppy clothes, their Argyle and Madras. And then I remember so much wanting to join them and sit with them, but I couldn't do it because I knew socially I wasn't allowed. And that was just such a defining memory of that longing feeling of outcast.
Yeah, I went to a private Catholic school, and I didn't have a car like some of the rich kids that got all the girls. And you know what? I had a little edge to me because I didn't grow up with money, and I grew up.
Same here.
Yeah.
And that, I remember that girl that I wanted so badly. She came over to my house finally senior year, and I was so ashamed of my house. We didn't have good furniture. It was dirty, and the carpet smelled of the dog pee. And I saw on her face, I saw that I was like, this is not going to happen anymore. Like I know I think we had similar backgrounds in that sense.
Yeah. So last question for you. What's the weirdest compliment you've ever gotten for your book writing?
I know what it is, and I love this compliment. It's somebody wrote, I think it is in this magazine called Truth Lies, and they said, this is the weird guy that you had in your creative writing class, or like, I know what it was. They were like, the one who is as talented as he is weird. I thought that was a good comment.
Yeah.
What about you? What was it?
Oh man, I can't honestly think of a weird compliment for my book writing, to be honest with you. I think most of it is just people are pretty respectful, but probably the weirdest thing I got was just people like, why the hell are you doing that? Like, you know what I mean? They just don't quite get why I'm writing fiction books. And then when you try to explain to them that, I'm trying to do something no one does, and, it even parallels the song of the month that I release every month, and I put them all together into this intricate puzzle.
That's awesome.
Most people are like, oh, that's pretty cool. Wow. But some people are just like, I don't get it. Like, you know what I mean? So, yeah.
I know, but I feel like eventually they will when they're ready. So I try not to take that personally anymore.
Oh, yeah. No, not at all. All right, Nick. It was a pleasure having you on the show, man.
Thank you, man.
I wish you nothing but the best, and have a great night.
Thank you so much. And I just emailed you the Jeff Buckley Grace. If you could I think you'll like that.
Sure. Okay, man. All right.
Thanks.
Have a good night, Nick. All right.
Thank you so much.
So that was Nick Fowler. I want to thank him for being on the show, and check out his website, check out his books, and thank you for participating tonight. We had an active audience. I couldn't get to all your questions, but hopefully you guys enjoyed the show. So I'm going to leave you. Last thing I'm going to do on the show here is, again, I'm going to thank you for being on the show, for listening to the show. And please, if you know anyone who's interested in being on the show, have them email me. To any listeners out there who may be artists, if you wish to be on the Songwriter Show, hit me up, email me, check out the website. There's many ways to get a hold of me. And I hope your own unique story gets heard around the world. My name is Sarantos. Please join me every single Tuesday night to hear other amazing artists share their fascinating behind-the-scenes stories right here at the Songwriter Show. And I'm going to leave you with the song I wrote, which is an EDM dance kind of song since summer's almost here. It's called Deep Inside. And yeah, it's a little bit sexy. So I hope you enjoy it and have a great night.
Baby, I wanna give you a piece of me.
Just wanna be free, free.
Every time I look at you, it's crazy. No matter what the mood, what can I say? What
Thank you for listening to The Songwriter Show. To keep the momentum going, head over to www.songwritershow.com and join our free music community of artists, songwriters, and producers. That's www.songwritershow.com.